This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
There's been renewed heavy fighting along the border between North and South Sudan. Al Jazeera's team there says that they've seen a number of casualties. The battles are taking place between rebels and government forces in the oil-rich border territory of Abyei. A peace deal was signed in 2005 to end 21 years of civil war, but conflict suddenly erupted again last week. It's estimated around 30,000 people have fled Abyei's main town, where bodies and burnt-out buildings are all that remain. Al Jazeera is the only TV crew in the town. Dan Nolan has this exclusive report.
In a country trying to rebuild from years of civil war, these are pictures nobody wants to see. Burnt-out buses, homes and shops destroyed. Abyei is a ghost town. The UN has evacuated its entire civilian staff from the area and estimates between 30 and 50,000 people have been displaced by days of deadly fighting.
We're staying in the open here. We have nothing to eat except what the soldiers give us of flour, which we make bread and other stuff from.
Al Jazeera's correspondent in Abyei also reports seeing many dead bodies lying in the streets. This is all the result of several days of fighting between Sudanese government forces from the north and the Sudan People's Liberation Army from the south. The two sides ended a bitter civil war in 2005. Up until last week, a joint force had maintained law and order in the oil-rich Abyei region. Now, members of that force have turned on each other, with both sides apportioning blame.
This city used to be calm, stable and secure until the Sudan People's Liberation Army came in with their troops and started intimidating the people.
The future of Abyei was never clearly determined amid the peace agreements to end the civil war. Both sides want its oil resources, estimated to be worth $500 million. With the ongoing crisis in Darfur and renewed tensions with neighbouring Chad, another war in Abyei will place enormous pressure on the Sudanese government in Khartoum. Dan Nolan, Al Jazeera.
بدأ الجيش العراقي عملية عسكرية واسعة في أحياء مدينة الصدر شرق بغداد من دون أي مقاومة من ميليشيا جيش المهدي.
The Iraqi army began a wide-scale military operation in the neighborhoods of Sadr city in eastern Baghdad without any resistance from the Mahdi army militia. Eyewitnesses said they were surprised by the wide-scale deployment of Iraqi forces in the Jawader area in the Falah and Dikhil streets, which are the main areas in the city. According to the government-run Iraqi television, today, the Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki received an apology from U.S. President George Bush for the incident in which a U.S. soldier shot at a copy of the Quran. The tribes of Mosul are playing a role in the war against al-Qaeda and illegal foreign fighters by coordinating with the Iraqi army forces in a military operation to purge the city and form what is called the Courageous Tribes of Mosul Council.
The last remnants of Al-Qaeda in Iraq are being defeated by the al-Arabiyain operation. The Courageous Tribes of Mosul Council has become a strong defense in Mosul after the tribes joined the side of the Iraqi government.
We are fighting these terrorist groups. We are fighting these criminal gangs and this organization that has harmed Iraq.
There are 11,000 tribesmen in the tribal forces which were deployed throughout Mosul despite its vast size. This army linked itself with the Iraqi government and specifically with the Ministry of Defense.
I thank the Prime Minister and the Ministers of Interior and Defense because they took a strong and encouraging look at the city of Mosul. They came here and sent us heroic armies to liberate the city of Mosul from terrorism.
In this battle, the role of the tribes is no less important than that of the official security forces, especially since the tribal members understand the people of Mosul, who are a vital source of intelligence information about the presence and the whereabouts of members of Al-Qaeda, the extent of their weaponry, as well as their real names.
The courageous tribes of Mosul Council has volunteered 11,000 people to fight terrorism. We are like a sharp sword in the hand of the Prime Minister Noor al-Maliki. We have indicated to him that we are prepared to support him and eliminate terrorism.
The men of the courageous tribes could have begun their role in this decisive battle before today. However, coordination with the government was belated, according to Sheikh Fawaz al-Jarba. He also said that there is not a lot of time left, especially since the 0 hour has come and the tribes are totally prepared. From Mosul, Ahmed al-Hamdani, Al-Arabiya.
تظاهر عراقيون أمام مقر جيش الاحتلال الأمريكي غربية بغداد احتجاج.
Iraqis demonstrated in front of the U.S. occupation army headquarters in western Baghdad, protesting against one of the U.S. soldiers who used the Holy Quran as a shooting target. Demonstrators called for the withdrawal of the occupation, which said that it apologized for the incident and removed the soldier from Iraq.
اعتداء جديد على القرآن الكريم ارتكبته قوات الاحتلال.
The United States occupation forces in Iraq committed a new aggression against the Holy Quran. A number of bullets pierced the pages of God's book, which appeared to be an attempt by the perpetrator to take out the holy religious values that are embedded in the hearts of Muslims throughout the world. The United States occupation forces repeatedly attack and desecrate the Quran. This time it was committed by one of its soldiers when he used God's book as a shooting target, leaving a number of holes in it. The residents of Radwaniya area confirmed that the soldier wrote phrases defaming Islam inside the Holy Quran. The United States soldiers' violation of the sanctity of the Holy Quran was met by angry response from Iraqis, who condemned the American actions during demonstrations that were held in various Iraqi cities, calling for the occupation to leave their country.
The U.S. soldiers' desecration of the Holy Book is an insult to all Muslims and religions. Can a Muslim attack their sacred sites, their holy books, or religion? No, this soldier must be punished. His hand must be cut off. These crusaders must be expelled from Iraq.
They came to insult the Muslims in the land of Islam in Iraq. They spread corruption, division, and everything.
The United States occupation forces tried to contain this public anger, which appeared to escalate in the Iraqi cities, by announcing the punishment that was given down to the soldier. This desecration of the Holy Quran by the United States forces is not the first of its kind. In the Guantanamo prison, Americans carried out abuses and desecration of God's book by stepping on its verses and putting them in the toilet. The desecration of symbols that are sacred for more than 1.5 billion Muslims throughout the world, even if committed by individuals, are an indication of the culture embedded by a campaign carried out by the United States administration against the people of countries of the Islamic world, many of whom are described as terrorists or supporting terrorism.
Dozens of Lebanese citizens held demonstrations along the road leading to Beirut's international airport, demanding their disputing leaders who are meeting in Doha to exert all their efforts to reach an agreement that stabilizes Lebanon.
A number of the Civil War veterans participated in the demonstration to warn all different parties not to repeat past mistakes.
Before thinking about weapons, they should think about their family, parents, and neighbors. They should think about what they are doing, because at the end, someone will be hurt. I was disabled and I suffered a great deal before I was able to come back to society. Yes, I currently work for a social magazine, but my family suffered a great deal with me too. We should not be thinking about war. When we really feel that we have to fight, we should hold flowers. We should find a better way to fight. We should defend our position with our words, not with weapons.
Like many Lebanese, Rasmiya al-Hindi came to this demonstration because she is concerned about her leader's inability to reach an agreement.
We call for resolving political issues within the political process and institutions and adhering to the Lebanese constitution.
This is the second event that was held by the Veterans Union and more than 13 other organizations. The first event was held to say goodbye to the disputing Lebanese leaders before leaving to Doha, and today they gathered here on the road to Beirut's international airport, urging them not to leave Doha before reaching an agreement.
I do not belong to any organization or any group. Yesterday I received an email and I forwarded it to my friends. I left my job to come here because I'm very agitated. The country has been paralyzed for the past 10 years.
Of course, this is a symbolic gesture, but it's important because it calls for refraining from the use of violence. The demonstrators also stressed that all Lebanese share the same national identity, although some differ on how this national identity ought to be protected.
This is the first step to build our homeland. This is an initiative from the civic society. This homeland is for everyone, regardless of religious affiliation. It is a country for all its citizens, and we want that benefit for everyone. We want to resist Israel, but we should do this through science, education, art, and civilization.
These demonstrators are hoping that their voices would be heard by their leaders meeting in Doha, so they understand the risks of failing to reach an agreement and of resolving disputes in the streets, which killed 76 people and injured 199 others in 3 days. A large number of these victims did not have anything to do with what is happening. These are the silent majority of Lebanese who come from all over the country and united under one banner, the banner of the homeland. These demonstrators insisted on making their voices heard by the decision makers in Doha. Busha Abdel Samad, Al Jazeera, Beirut. Singer Noel Zoghbi went to the Sheraton Hotel, but did anyone listen to the voice of art? Firas Hatoun prepared the following report.
What was divided by politics was united by Noel Zoghbi. The opposition and the government loyalists who diverged around the dialogue table agreed on their admiration for this Lebanese artist. She went into the Sheraton Hotel to sing a concert, and she stole away the politicians' limelight. She hoped their agreement about her is the preface to their agreement on fundamental issues.
I accepted to do this concert over 2 months ago. But I was happy for this coincidence because it's good for the citizens to speak up. I'm not talking here as an artist, but as a Lebanese citizen, it's nice to have my voice heard directly.
To the leaders.
Yes, to the leaders.
What did you say?
That they need to agree and relieve us of this problem because we've had enough. The Lebanese people have had enough and can't take it anymore. There's nothing left in the county. They have to think about the Lebanese people because their job is to provide their people with security and peace of mind. If they cannot give us security and make us feel safe, then we might as well migrate.
You don't like to talk about politics, but in general, do you empathize with any of the sides?
At the end of the day, they are all Lebanese, and I am Lebanese. I empathize with all of them, of course. I just request of them, as a Lebanese person, to get it over with because we're tired.
If you were to dedicate one of your songs to them, which one would it be?
Dedicate?
Something that suits them.
I have to make a song for them. None of my songs fit them. I need a new one.
Take a break and kill him. Doesn't this work for them?
No, no. Have some mercy. We don't want to be unjust.
The appearance and the content of Lebanon's time in Qatar started blending together. The politicians substituted the official dialogue table with side meetings. It was difficult to identify the political discussions from the social ones. The tables of restaurants and cafes were filled with parliamentarians of the first class, second and third. As for the reporters, they changed the hotel lobbies into waiting rooms. They kept a watch for people coming and going, looking for a statement or position. The heightened security measures limited their freedom of movement. But within these restrictions, the camera succeeded in catching a few images. The Prime Minister was walking around the circumference of his room. MP Walid Jumblat escaped the noise of politics and was looking for a book or a newspaper. We tried to eavesdrop on the whispering of parliamentarians. But to our bad luck, the only thing we could hear was whispering in Armenian. We searched somewhere else and succeeded in finding parliamentarians from the majority. After examining and analyzing the opposition's statements to the point of saturation, they decided to cool off by the water. Lebanon's political and media wings descended in Qatar to dialogue, giving Lebanon respite from its politicians and maybe its reporters too. The hope is for a quick return to the homeland before the Qatari host gets tired of its guests. From the Sheraton Hotel in Doha, this is Faraz Hatoum, New TV.
In today's top story, events are moving quickly in the ongoing investigation against Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. Olmert will be questioned by police for the second time this Friday. Abyei Steve Leibowitz has the story.
Police spokesman Mickey Rosenfeld said today that officers from the National Fraud Unit will meet with the Prime Minister at his Jerusalem residence at 10 a.m. this Friday. They are anxious to hear Olmert's version of events relating to his alleged receipt of large sums of cash from U.S. businessman Morris Talansky, while Olmert served as mayor of Jerusalem and Minister of Trade and Industry. The police say Olmert's testimony will be more credible if it is given before Talansky testifies in court. The High Court is expected to hand down its ruling on Talansky's testimony by tomorrow. Most observers expect that the High Court will reject the petition to block Talansky from testifying while the police investigation is still underway. But even if the petition is rejected, Talansky is unlikely to appear in court this Sunday as originally scheduled. Olmert's attorneys will demand more time to study the materials gathered by police so that they can cross-examine the New York businessman. But the case against Olmert appears to be gaining momentum, at least the court of public opinion. The court-imposed gag order on some details of the case expires later this week. At that time, more details will come to light on some of the paperwork regarding the alleged cash transfers seized by police in the office of Olmert's former bureau chief, Shula Zakin. Olmert's situation appears to be more precarious than ever before. But even his bitterest rivals cannot but feel sorry for the Prime Minister as he fights on another front as well, that of his health. Last night, Olmert underwent an MRI examination at Hadassah Hospital in Ein Kerem in Jerusalem. Last October, Olmert announced that he was suffering from an early stage of prostate cancer. He said the growth was microscopic and the treatment could be deferred. The Prime Minister's doctors said that last night's procedure was a routine procedure and had been coordinated weeks ago.
Israeli aircraft launched at least 2 strikes on Palestinians today. Abyei's Eli Wargalenter brings us details on that and other security-related developments.
A 13-year-old Palestinian boy was killed in Gaza and another youth wounded when an Israeli Air Force plane targeted a rocket-firing squad in the area. Moments earlier, the terrorists had launched rockets towards Israel. The youths had apparently been standing near the cell when the strike occurred. No casualties or damage were reported in the Qassam attack, in which 2 rockets landed in open areas near Sderot. In a separate strike today, Israeli planes targeted a group of Palestinians attempting to plant a bomb near the security fence in the northern Gaza Strip. An army source said that the terrorists were hit in the airstrike. Also today, a 32-year-old man was killed in an explosion in central Gaza. Palestinian medics said IDF shelling was responsible. Last night, a 20-year-old Palestinian suicide bomber was killed by IDF soldiers at the Awara checkpoint south of Shechem before he could carry out his attack, thanks to the quick thinking of Corporal Michal Yaakov. The IDF said that the Palestinian approached the checkpoint behaving in a suspicious manner and set off a metal detector numerous times, even when Yaakov asked him to remove objects from his person. According to the Army's account, The soldiers subsequently ordered the Palestinian to remain still. However, the man slowly moved his hands in the direction of an explosive belt, and the troops shot and killed him. Eli Wogelanter, Abyei News.
While the world is gathering in Ireland's capital, Dublin, to work on the international agreement for a ban on cluster bombs, the pastures in the Jordan Valley region continue to pose threats to the villagers and the Bedouin shepherds there. In the Jordan Valley, where grass mixes with landmines and where the Israeli army carries out military trainings, many Bedouin shepherds are facing death or maiming. The Bedouins in the Jordan Valley are living in between the snap ring of a pair of pliers. On one side, they face the threats of minefields, and on the other, they face the threats of Israeli settlers. Mohammed al-Sayed reports from the Palestinian Jordan Valley region.
Some may have lost a child, a hand, or a leg, or may have been disfigured for life. These are the victims of landmines which were left behind by the occupation army in the Palestinian regions of Jericho and the Jordan Valley.
This is a military zone which has a large residue of landmines and shells. Many Bedouin shepherds have been killed by landmines, shells, and undetonated bombs.
The vast majority of the victims are villagers and Bedouins who often relocate from one place to another while looking for their livestock, not paying attention to what is awaiting for them beneath the ground. This man, like many others, has refused to talk publicly due to the fear of losing his rights in case he fought against the occupation army.
For God's sake, please talk. In the name of your father, may God bless him, and may he rest in peace. Please talk. His name is Mahmoud. Please talk.
Nearly 40% of the landmine victims are children under the age of 18 who raise sheep in the fertile Jordan Valley region, which extends to the banks of the Jordan River, where the Israeli army continues to carry out many of its military trainings.
Our sheep graze in this area, which is full of landmines and shells. We are not allowed to travel east. If you get caught in that area, you will be humiliated by the settlers.
According to a Palestinian census, the number of landmine victims from the 1970s to the end of the second millennium has reached more than 120, including 40 martyrs. The residents here depend on the breeding and the raising of livestock, which graze in these pastures that the occupation army has planted with landmines, making shepherding a very dangerous thing to do. Mohammed al-Sayed, Dubai Television from the Jordan Valley, the Palestinian territories.
The makeup of the new Mauritanian government has stirred up controversy over the emergence of some leaders, the type rarely seen during the reign of the ousted president Muawiyah Walid Taya. This news comes after some have accused the new cabinet of lacking transparency, which is necessary to move the political process forward. However, some analysts believe that the new government is different from its predecessor, since it allows for a larger political participation and includes parliament members from both the left and the Islamists, which makes it a better representation of the political and social makeup of the country.
Is it a stormy political rebound, or is it a slow political change that is happening in Mauritania? This question is drawing headlines on Mauritanian front, where the new makeup of the government is stirring controversy. Along with two major opposition groups, the new Mauritanian government includes cabinet members described as highly qualified and experienced by some, and described as elements of corruption by others.
The President of the Republic of Mauritania is trying to form a political government that represents the various major political parties in the country. However, it brought back some of the elements from the former regime of Walid Taya.
The Mauritanian opposition group led by Ahmed Oueldada said that his party has no place in the new government. Meanwhile, the head of the Union of Progress Forces said that his party has a golden opportunity which it should take advantage of.
The day following the presidential elections, all opposition groups agreed to extend a lending hand to the new president. We also agreed on drafting a program for political reform. Today, the president said that he is willing to take part in such authority. We, along with other opposition leaders, agreed that this opportunity must be seized by the nationalists.
However, what was surprising was the joining of the Islamic Call Party to the club of those calling for the harmonization of relations with the Zionist entity. This news comes despite the announcement that was made by the party's leader, who stood in a massive festival a few months ago and said the following:
"We say no to those who don't fight corruption, those who don't want to break off relations with Israel, those who don't look for the best interests of the Mauritanian public, those who don't defend and protect the nation, and those who don't call for the reduction of prices. We say to all of them, no, no, no."
Meanwhile, the Mauritanian Prime Minister said that breaking off relations with Israel is not on his government's agenda.
The severance of our country's relationship with Israel is not on the agenda of the current government.
The Mauritanian people don't expect much from his government.
The new thing about this government is the unprecedented rising of certain politicians to power.
This cabinet is the same old Weldataya government in the outfit of President Sidi Oud Sheikh Abdullahi.
During his presidential elections nearly a year ago, the Mauritanian president, Sidi Mohammed Ould Sheikh Abdullahi, has adopted the slogan of what has been described as a slow political change. However, some believe what is happening now in the country is a slow return of the political process to square one. While some described the new government as a cabinet for corruption, others described it as a political government with excellence, a government that is trying to help the Mauritanian president rally support for his political program.
Islamic Revolution leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei told Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki that current world developments have tipped the balance in favor of independent nations. The leader said the world's awakening movement has repulsed colonial powers. Ayatollah Khamenei said Asian, African and Latin American nations can cooperate more to introduce still more changes to the existing international relations. The leader said close ties between independent nations clash with interests of the US and Israel that played a key role in sufferings of the Black Continent. Ayatollah Khamenei said Iran really wants to boost relations with countries in Asia and Africa. The Eritrean president, for his part, said Iran's Islamic Revolution was a turning point in the freedom of regional countries. President Ahmadinejad says corrupt powers create division across the world to plunder the riches of nations and line their own pockets. Ahmadinejad told Ghanaian Foreign Minister Akwasi Ose Abyei that bullying powers should be defied tactfully and thoughtfully. He said African nations are steadfastly defending their own rights, adding Iran's doctrine calls for helping African nations to resist big powers. Ahmadinejad added the African Union is expected to speedily settle small problems standing in the way. He then held up Iran's readiness to transfer its valuable achievements to Ghana's different sectors as proof that Tehran is after expansion of ties with Africa. The Ghanaian minister in turn said African nations are trying to solve their troubles through cooperation. Foreign Minister Manuche Moteki says Tehran has okayed a request by EU Foreign Policy Chief Javier Solana to come to Iran and submit the 5+1 package of proposals. In a joint press briefing with the Ghanaian Foreign Minister, Moteki said Iran's package, which has so far handed over to the UN, its Security Council, a host of world top diplomats, and EU's Solana will reach some other countries in coming days. On Africa, he said this year is the year of Iran's broad-based cooperation with African nations.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.